Okay, welcome back to the Brown and Crouppen live Facebook video. We do this every week, trying to cover topics that you're all asking for, that you're interested in. If you have not yet subscribed to our page, this would be a great time to remember to subscribe so that you don't miss out on these videos. And if you have any ideas on videos that we should do in the future, questions you'd like to see answered, go ahead and put it in the comments and we will do a future video on it. Today's topic, and I'm here of course with Andrew McNary, who you guys have probably gotten to know a little bit by now from past videos. We're going to talk about recalls, why they occur, what it means to you, how do you make sure that you know about something that you're interacting with that may have been recalled, what the dangers are, and we're going to start by talking a little bit about automobile recalls. So we're talking about the car itself, we're talking about car seats and tires. Okay, have you worked on any cases with those?
I have. I've done a couple car seat cases and have been involved in actual like rollover and actual car seat, your seat that you sit in, not a child's car seat case.
Yeah, I think, we all hear about these in the news. You'll hear about things like the Takata airbags that are used in millions of cars that are part of an active recall. You'll hear about things like the GM ignition switches. I think there was an issue with the Toyota accelerator a few years ago. Let's talk, for one, and here's a few areas of expertise that I have. I can tell you that a recall will be issued if it's determined that a product went to the public that does not meet the federal motor safety standards. So if they conclude afterward that it does not meet those standards, they'll automatically be a recall. They'll look for recall. But the more common way that recalls happen is if it's determined that there's a design defect that may cause a safety problem. Those are safety recalls. And if those happen, basically the process is, will you find out about it? You'll find out about it if you're the original owner, and if you're still in the house, the address that you were living in, you'll probably get a notification from the manufacturer.
Correct, they'll do like a direct mailing.
Exactly, but the challenge comes, what if you're not the original owner of the vehicle? Or what if you've moved addresses? How are they supposed to find you and notify you? And this is where people have to take a little bit more of an active, effort on their own. So what everybody can do right now is you can go to the National Traffic Highway Safety Board, the NHTSB.gov/recalls. And you can look up on there actively whatever vehicle you're in, the model, the year, and it should list on there if it's the subject of any recall.
Correct.
So talk about, what does a person do if they find out they have a vehicle that's been recalled?
Well, if you find out you had a recall, most of the time they direct you to take it to a local dealer. It doesn't necessarily have to be your dealer, but a local dealer, and it depends on the type of recall. Sometimes if it's a retrofit, they'll have you order the part and then bring it into the dealer, or they'll direct you directly to the dealer.
Right, and more importantly, no matter how old your vehicle is, and it doesn't matter if you were the original owner or not, if that vehicle is the subject of a recall, call the dealership, let them know, I think my vehicle is the subject of a recall. They can look it up based on your VIN number. So if you have the VIN number of the actual vehicle, they can find out if that vehicle has an active open recall. If it is, you'll bring it in there. It will be fixed at no expense to you. You do not pay.
Doesn't matter how old the car is.
Doesn't matter. It could be a 20-year-old vehicle. If it's a subject of an open recall, a dealership has to have it fixed, and you don't get charged anything for that. I think a lot of people are nervous about those things because like, oh my God, I've got a recalled vehicle. Where am I going to get the money to fix this? You don't have to have any money for that. Let's talk a little bit about what does it mean to a company to have one of their products recalled?
Well, it's huge. Obviously, it's a very expensive endeavor to first figure out what a fix would be and then directly mail to everybody who's ever bought a car, send it out to the dealers. So realistically, you're looking at, by the time a recall really happens, that there have been numerous, not just handfuls, but probably hundreds of incidents that led to the recall. So it's not it's a serious thing. So if there is a recall, it's been deemed serious enough to go through the expense of doing it, which should let you know the gravity of the situation.
Right, and that's, I think, what people need to hear from this. There's two kinds of defect, and maybe there's more, but there's two that I'm aware of. You could have a design defect, which means that every single car seat that came off that factory, they all have a defect because it's inherent to the design. Or you could have a flaw defect, meaning that the design is fine, but a certain number of these are just built incorrectly or parts put on incorrectly. And a lot of times with these companies, they're trying to figure out, are we dealing with a flaw defect and it's only going to come up very, very rarely and it's not really cost effective to do a recall on it because these are pretty rare events? Or have enough people complained or enough injuries occurred to where they can now look at it and say, oh, this isn't just a few of them that got messed up on the line. This is something inherent to this design. It potentially could happen, if not all of the time. It can happen far too often for us to just call it a flaw. Am I right on that?
Correct. So, like, a good example that people are familiar with are the rollover cases that we all heard about, from a decade ago. That was just a design defect. The way it was designed led to roof crushes or doors popping open when a car would roll over. So when those recalls happened, they actually had to bring the vehicles in and put a whole new product in it, as opposed to, I think with some of the airbag recalls, it was just the way certain ones were made. And in those cases, again, if they're going to go through the trouble to do it, it's obviously very serious.
Right, and when people have to think about, okay, let's say I'm a company, I'm making car seats. I don't want to use any particular company names because I don't want to give them a bad name, but we'll just call them Bob's Car Seats. They've spent millions and millions of dollars to try to get a good reputation in the community so that when people hear their name associated with a product, they think that's a well-made product. So for them to go ahead and do a recall, they know in addition to the expense of the recall and the repair, they also know that their brand name is taking a hit. That now, instead of people thinking about Bob's Car Seats as the safest in the world, they know they're taking a hit because now they're hearing Bob's Car Seats are being recalled. That's a big, big deal.
Oh, especially for things like vehicles or car seats. No one wants their product name to be associated with something that is harming children when it's meant to protect them.
Exactly, and so that's why when you do hear about these things, you have to take them really, really seriously. You have to know that this is a serious matter. This could be a life and death type of matter, and if they're going to the time, the expense, and the hit of doing a recall, it's not because they're afraid of a lawsuit, but it's probably a good product, but they're being overly cautious. No. If they're doing it, this is a serious matter, and they know people are being hurt, and they know that they have to warn people and get these things fixed.
And we know from the cases that we've done in the past that we're not talking about singular incidences either.
Right.
There's hundreds, probably thousands of previous incidents that led to the recall.
We talked about cars and by extension tires, because there have been a lot of tire recalls, and we talked a little bit about car seats. Talk about some of the other products, just consumer products that have been recalled and that people should know about.
Oh, sure. Everything from the seats. I don't want to say anybody's name, but the seats, the little foam seats that people used to sit their toddlers in on tables, bunk beds, manufacturing equipment,
ladders. A lot of ladders. Ladders can be very dangerous, and if there is a defect in the locking mechanism on a ladder, you always see those things being recalled.
Yeah. Motorcycle seats.
We saw those.
Baby formula.
Yeah.
Which
is scary. How about just today there was a recall issued for some smoke detectors, fire detectors. Think about that. Here the only reason you even have the product is to serve one function. Let me know if there's a smoke or a fire so that I can get out with time to live. So if there's a recall on a smoke detector, it can only really be because it's failing at the one function it's designed to take care of.
Yeah, and the difficult thing with products as opposed to vehicles. So if it's a vehicle recall, if you're still living in the same house, again, you'll get a direct mailing. If you bring your car to a dealer, they'll let you know when you bring it in for your oil change. Or sometimes those things are a little bit more widely publicized in the news. But with products, a lot of times it's hard to know if something's been recalled. You know, the places you have to look are the Consumer Product Safety Commission. They publish it on their website. Or if you've ever gone to like Walmart or Target, up in the customer service area, there's, you know, posted recalls. Or again, you have to hope you see it on the news.
Well, the other thing people can do, and I'll be the first to admit I'm very bad about doing this, but now that I'm getting smarter, maybe I'll be better. But a lot of products that you buy, there is a product registration card that comes in the product. You buy a toaster oven, popcorn popper, a ladder, then there'll be a card. The card serves a purpose. If you take the time to fill it out, and I'm sure nowadays a lot of it can be filled out online, take 5 minutes. Fill it out whenever you buy something. It accomplishes two objectives. One, if there's ever a recall on that product, that's the easiest way for them to inform you that there's been a recall on your product. The second thing is that it's proof of purchase. So, you know, if you are injured or someone you care about is injured and you want to say, yeah, that's the product that caused the injury, and it's, you know, boom, they have a record of it, you know, that you don't have to go looking for the receipt. The actual company who you're going to be bringing the claim against, they have your card, they know where you purchased it, when you purchased it, they know it's the right product. So you've already made your case potentially a lot stronger just from that alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does become a lot if you start thinking about it, all the products that we have in our house and all the cards that come with those products. But really, unless you're checking, like I said, the Consumer Product Safety Commission website every day or watching the boards for recalls in retail stores, there's really no other way to find those things out.
Now, it's true you do buy a lot of products. So if I was going to prioritize, here's what I would do. Any product related to a child, if you're, you know, especially babies, every one of those products, if it comes with a card to fill out to register it, so if it's your crib, your mobile, your anything that's going to be interacting with your child,
especially car seats.
Yeah, especially car seats. I would start with those, and then I would move to anything that plugs into a wall, because they tend to be the subject of these things more than anything else. So the fire detectors that are, whether they're hardwired or battery powered, to me, electricity is electricity. Anything that involves electricity,
Yeah, your kitchen appliances.
I would do all of that next as the second rung. And then if you have a little extra time in your schedule, I would look into the other stuff that you're buying. But I'd prioritize anything related to a baby, then a child, and then electronics.
Yeah, I agree. And definitely also children's toys. If they come with a card, I would register some of the electronic toys or the motorized toys that kids ride in also should be recalled or could be recalled and have been recalled in the past and come with cards.
Yeah. Now, while we're on the topic of some of these products, I think it's probably worth mentioning, take a little time to read the warnings, because there are products that are out there that do come with risk, but they feel like because they've warned people about the risk, they've kind of washed their hands of whatever the liability may be if something were to happen. And to some extent they have, by putting out a fair warning.
In every product case, first question almost always to the plaintiff is, did you read the warnings? And if you didn't, there's, you know, a good defense to be had, how you share some, if not all, of the blame.
Right. So, and even just for your own safety, read the warnings and follow them. Just know, no company wants to put a warning on there if they can avoid it. Every company knows that the more warnings they put on their product, the less likely it is that people will buy their product. So most companies do everything in their power to limit the amount of warnings that they have to give. I've heard people joking around. They look at warnings that they didn't see when they were a kid, and they will blame lawyers and say, oh, well, some lawyer brought some claim, and now this company, this poor company, has to actually start warning the consumers. Yes. But we know better. And when you're in the industry, you know they don't want to put a warning on for anything. And if they're putting a warning on for something, it's because they're, it's a legitimate concern with their product.
It's just like the recall. Unless there is a real problem, they're not going to put a warning on, and they're not going to do a recall. They want their product and their name to be
Pristine.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So anyway, we've talked a lot. Hopefully we've shared some very practical, useful information. Once again, I want to remind you, subscribe to our page, put stuff in the comments. We love to see people's feedback, and thank you for watching.